Hey, what is going on, guys? Vinyardi here. Welcome back to this month's Literature Club. Can you believe it's September already? That's right. School's back in session. Holidays are coming up. I got a lot of crazy holiday videos coming up over at Homeschooled, as well as our fall update. I'm actually planning on doing an update video very soon, so you guys will know what's going on. As well as this channel hit 100 subscribers, which I am really happy about because I put a lot of work in this channel. I really love doing these Let's Plays and the Literature Club now. I read last month and it was actually a really good time. So let's go ahead and talk about them right before we get to this month's picks. Why don't we? So first off, I got a lot of paperwork in the way. So of course, the first book we read was L. Frank Baum's The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, a classic for good reason, as I discovered. You know, the Oz series kind of gets overlooked a lot as far as the series goes. Everyone really just focused on this book, and I kind of got why while reading this book, because honestly, you know, it's just this book I feel was more better written than the other series. We're gonna later on. I gotta get the actual books because I only have, I think, the third one. I have the second and third book, if I'm not mistaken, from the series. But one question I kind of posed to myself while reading this book was just, does The Wizard of Oz hold up? Is it really that great of a classic? And honestly, I think kind of it is. I mean, honestly, the thing about it is, nowadays everyone's got all these rules for stories, you know. Oh, it's gotta have, you know, you gotta have your arcs, your character arcs and everything. And most importantly, they always say it's gotta have a moral, and really, I don't think The Wizard of Oz has a moral. Correct me if I'm wrong, maybe I'm just missing it. I don't think so, but honestly, I don't see a moral here. You know, The Wizard of Oz, I don't know, it's like what message would there even be? Like, you know, there's no place like home is only the only real strong message, and honestly, even that is just kind of whatever. You know, I've seen a lot of people trying to draw from the allegorical elements, which the book does contain, or seemingly, but the most anyone's ever really pulled convincing is like, you know, oh, it's about empowerment of a woman or whatever, because, you know, all the male characters are stupid, which kind of makes sense. All the male characters aren't exactly role models. You know, Dorothy's the only one that's really sensible, but to be honest, like, that kind of works, you know. And I guess that's really why this book works so well compared to the others, is because in the other books you don't really have the balancing factor of Dorothy. You know, Dorothy is pretty much, she later on in the series, she's about as whack as any of the others. I mean, she's not a crazy character, but you know, she's not surprised by anything. None of this in this world surprises her, whereas in this book, kind of like in the Harry Potter series, where you got to experience the world of wizardry through the eyes of someone who didn't know anything about it, and that works really well for a story specifically about a world having a character that doesn't know about that world. I think L. Frank Baum didn't really even know how he did this masterpiece. I think he just somehow or other struck lucky, because his other books didn't have these same elements. You know, they were still fun to read, to be sure, and I still enjoyed them a lot, but I don't really feel like any of them were quite as genius as The Wizard of Oz, for several reasons. But yeah, that's my thoughts on it. I'm gonna give this book, honestly, shucks, how do you even rate a classic? You know what I mean? Like, I feel like I'm taking classic books and being like, put them under my megas book, are they a good book? And I think this book holds up. If it was the whole series, you know, it's just another kid series, but this book is really fun to read. It's really well written. The characters are really well developed. It's just a good book. I'm giving it 5 out of 5 stars. I don't know what else to do. Our next book I read was, of course, Treasure Island, one of my favorites. Actually, it is my favorite book of all time, and I was kind of worried that it wouldn't be after this month. I'm gonna hold it up to this light so that maybe you can kind of get a little glow off it. I don't know. But yeah, this book was one of my favorites as a kid. I reread it several times, and now I finally reread it again. And honestly, this time I think it was the best time I've ever read it, because I was able to just read the whole story. I actually read it in a matter of 2 days. Which is why I know last week I mentioned Treasure Planet, which if you haven't, I definitely recommend checking out that film. It is a Disney classic, one of the only good Disney films. I know that's like a terrible thing to say, but I do not enjoy Disney films at all. Treasure Planet is basically, it's like a spiritual adaptation of the book, only instead it's all sci-fi and stuff. The thing about Treasure Planet is, rather than focusing on the characters as a whole, it really focuses on the relationship between Jim and Silver. Treasure Island doesn't have that focus because Silver was never meant to be a a really dependable character. He's not someone you look up to, and yet somehow Silver is really the only character who's very well known from Treasure Island. All the characters are well written, to be sure, and you can tell a lot of research went into this book compared to Robert Louis Stevenson's other books like Kidnapped. But this book, it's a really good read. But the question still remains, is it better with some kind of redemption story for Silver? Should Silver be a character we look up to? And honestly, I think that it worked really well in Treasure Planet, but it would not have worked well in Treasure Island, just because that kind of scenario would feel unrealistic. Whereas like in a movie like Treasure Planet, it kind of worked, Really, it overall just kind of reversed not Silver's character arc, because really Silver as a character didn't change from Treasure Island. He was just an interesting character who was able to play both sides, and in the end the good guys won, so he went with the winners. And really he's not a character you look up on. He did not do anything for anybody else aside from himself in the whole story. The only times he did things for other people was because he was getting stuff out of them, which is another thing that I didn't really notice looking back. Whereas in Treasure Planet, our feelings on Silver are reversed. We go from thinking he's a bad guy, disliking him, to slowly realizing that he's redeeming qualities. But in Treasure Planet, Silver's redemption wasn't about him just doing this for himself. It had to clearly make it so that he had to give up what he was getting. In fact, none of the characters in Treasure Planet ever got any of the treasure, aside from pirates, and they got dead. So that kind of allowed it to be kind of like, oh, Silver's not just going to help Jim because he thinks that he can have a better chance of surviving with him now. It's more a factor of him choosing to give up his former dream in order to save Jim and be his father figure. I think like for the movie, they had to change these characters because Treasure Island as a movie just doesn't work really well because it's more of a realistic story. There's not a lot of happy endings. A lot of people die in it. A lot of good people die in it. It's like in the end, our heroes barely get through, and it's not really an uplifting story so much as it is kind of an adventure. And I guess that in and of itself makes the book fun to read. But a movie, you kind of don't want that kind of. But in a movie, you kind of want something else for that. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. Is Treasure Island a good book? Does it hold up? I think so. I'm giving it 5 out of 5 stars. Alright, last but not least, guys, is Primal Branding, the book recommended by Tim Schmoyer. It's got swears. There's some F words in there. Sorry about that. I know I try to recommend books that are family friendly, but at the same time, how do I know that a book about how different brands survive the years is gonna have a drop in F-bomb from time to time? I don't know. Sorry about that, but it was still a good book to read. I just recommend it if you want to learn more about how to make a brand. I learned some stuff. A lot of it I found out, this is like where Tim Schmoyer gets a lot of his tips on how to build your branding on your YouTube channel to where people have it. And I even noticed the same factors in the book with popular YouTube channels. You have your catchphrases, top of the mortalities, or your icons like the Markiplier's purple mustache, or you have all these things that are iconic with these brands that are required. I mean, they're not required for a business to run, but it's definitely required for people to kind of get a relationship with a brand going. And really it brought me into question, a lot of like my daily habits. Why do I choose to go to McDonald's every day rather than Burger King? Is it because they're marketing? Is it really because of their branding? Or is it just because one's more convenient than the other? Why do I choose to go to Starbucks for coffee rather than the other coffee shops in town? Is it really for convenience, or is there something more? Is it because it's so iconic that I choose to go there? Is it because they have great value, or is it because they have great white cups and I recognize that and it's an icon? As part of culture, I just do that. It makes you question just why you do things in your day-to-day life. So it was an interesting read. Definitely recommend it. But it does have swears, so my apologies for that. Alright guys, this is it. Time for this month's read. I don't have one of the books. Where is it? There it is. If those of you who watch the Homeschooled Nerdcast will know that recently me and Joe had a little bit of a discussion about basic income, whether or not it was good. Both of us agreed that it was not a good idea, but I mentioned that I was wanting to read a book to figure out, is basic income really a bad idea or is it a good idea? So I got what probably was the best titled book for me, Basic Income, a guide for the open-minded. This book, I really know nothing about it. I've seen some quotes from it on Twitter from people who really like Basic Income and will not shut up about it. I'm not convinced at all. But at the same time, I want to have an open mind. I want to find out, what exactly are we talking about. People put too much faith in the government for a lot of things. And really, I think what we need is less government intervention, but people just, for some reason, think that government intervention is, if we just have more of that, then all these problems will go away. And really, I think a lot of these problems exist because of government intervention, but now we're getting political. Next book is a G.A. Henty, In Freedom's Cause. This is G.A. Henty. If you don't know about him, if you're not homeschooled, you won't know about him probably. He writes a lot of historical fiction, which is really well done. One thing is, I do know, I've read a few of his books, and all his main characters are always the same. It's always the same age of boy. It's always that kind of person. But yeah, this is about the Scottish rebellion of, what is it, even the 13th, 14th century. Wallace and Bruce, that whole deal. Very interesting story. I've read it before, but I'm looking forward to reading it now that I actually am able to focus. And last but not least, we are reading yet another classic, guys. This is Miguel de Cervantes' Don Quixote. So this is kind of a comedy, but it's from, when was it even written? I don't remember when this book was written, to be honest, but it's very famous. It's kind of an old classic, one of the oldest classics that exist. The version I have is retold by Martin Jenkins, illustrated by Chris Riddle. So it's probably a little different from the original, but it has a lot of the same wording. It's not dumbed down by any means. Definitely recommend it. It's an awesome read. I've read it several times. It's hilarious, and people have taken inspiration from it for decades. Others like Dickens. Yeah, Charles Dickens, he also took some inspiration from Don Quixote. He actually has references to Don Quixote at times. So yeah, those are these month's picks. Can you even believe it? I've been really enjoying doing this literature club, guys. This episode was a little longer than the other ones, but I really wanted to do a discussion on these books because I had a lot to say, as you can clearly see. Hope you guys didn't find this too boring. Let me know what you thought of these in the comments below. Hopefully, and yeah, check these books out for this month, and I'll see you guys October. I'll see you guys in October. It's spooky month. Who knows? Maybe we'll get some Halloween books to read. Let me know if you guys knew any good, I don't know. We could read some kids books, I guess. Some spooky kids books or something that's not too awful. Not too awful PG. I don't really want to read a Stephen King novel, to be honest. And I'll see you guys next time. Until then, take it easy. Bye bye.